on these islands, as much from those readings that you'll want to reflect on in the days and the months ahead. But I want to start somewhere quite different, and that's in a dentist's waiting room. I don't know how you occupy yourselves in dentist waiting rooms, but I always find it intriguing to browse through the pile of out-of-date magazines that are left out on the table. Magazines that I would normally never open, let alone read. Several years ago, I came across an interesting article about marriage in one of the more respectable women's magazines. So interesting, in fact, that I asked a slightly bemused receptionist whether I might take the magazine home with me. In the article, various couples were asked for their words of wisdom and insight to pass on to a bride and groom on their wedding day. And it is 3 of those insights that I'd like to share now with Jonathan and Rachel. One couple asked our bride and groom to see marriage as a gift. Another suggests that marriage should be an ordering of their priorities, their value system. The third encouraged them to see today and the years that follow as a dedication. The marriage as a gift couple begin their words of wisdom with a literary reference. 2 of the most famous quotations in English literature, writes the man of couple number 1, are found in the same book, one at the beginning, one at the end. From the beginning, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was a season of light, it was a season of darkness. And from the end, it is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done. And the man goes on to comment, the source, of course, is Dickens's A Tale of Two Cities, a novel about the French Revolution. Yet these familiar words come to mind as I pause to reflect on a marriage now 10 years old. These years have been for me the best of times and the worst of times, mostly the best of times. The vows I spoke 10 years ago were, in retrospect, a far, far better thing than I had ever done. The 10 calendar years that my life companion and I have lived together mark seasons of light and seasons of darkness, mostly of light. These 10 years stand as a witness to the truth of those words, that marriage is our last best chance to grow up. To this extent, to paraphrase our first couple, marriage is a gift. The gift of maturity, gradually causing people to move away from I want to I give, from my to our, from pride to humility, from self-centeredness to sharing. Marriage helps people be more than they thought they could be. Marriage indeed is a gift, say couple number 1. Tell the bride and groom that. Marriage is a gift. The second couple agreed on all that, but because of their unique experience, they would place the emphasis on marriage as an ordering of the couple's values. And there's a reason behind that. Many years ago, they and their 2 young children were under house arrest for a long time in China. They lived reasonably comfortably, but were never allowed to leave their house. One day, a soldier unexpectedly came to the door, and without any explanation, told them that they could return to the West the next day, but as he said, you may take only 100 kilograms of luggage with you, no more. So they got out their large scales, and the arguments began. Must have this force, must have these books, must have these dishes, must have these toys, and so on. The argument was on for hours. Eventually they'd agreed on their 100 kilograms of luggage. The soldier, as promised, returned the next day. He asked, are you ready? They said, yes. Are you packed? They said, yes. Did you weigh everything? They said, yes, pointing to the boxes on the large flat scales. Did you weigh the children? A dreadful silence as they looked at each other, and then after a moment's hesitation, off came the books, off came the dishes, off came everything else. And that's when they realised that they had let things get in the way of people, that they had forgotten their priorities. And they're convinced that many marriages break up because secondary things, such as constant consumption, possessions, status, even the demands of work, even good things, replace primary relationships, care and time for one another. And we'll hear their concern expressed, by the way, in our prayers towards the end of this service, as we ask God that Jonathan and Rachel may discern in his word order and purpose for their lives. Amen. Say couple number 2 to that. Tell the bride and groom to order their values. People first. It's the only way. I know Lily and Felix know that so well as well. And so to the third couple. Actually, this one is only half a couple. An American woman, a widow and a professional writer, who was married for 43 years to a man who recently died of cancer. She wrote a book about their marriage and quoted some of its words in her part of the article. Our love has been anything but perfect and anything but static. Inevitably, there have been times when we've misunderstood each other, demanded too much of each other, been insensitive to each other's needs. I do not believe that there is any marriage in which these things do not happen. The growth of love is not a straight line, but a series of hills and valleys. I suspect that in every good marriage, there are times when love seems to be over. Sometimes these desert times are simply the only way to the next oasis, which is far more lush and beautiful after the desert crossing than it could possibly have been without. How sad it is, the writer goes on to reflect, that some couples simply won't hang on in their desert times until the next oasis is reached, one that cannot be reached without the hard time, the death time, the purification time. And all this takes dedication to marriage itself and to one another. Tell the bride and groom that on their wedding day. Marriage is about dedication. So there you are, 3 insights from 3 couples. Take your choice. Marriage is a gift. Marriage is an ordering of priorities. Marriage is a dedication. And of course all 3 are true, and at various times in your marriage, one and then another will come to the foreground. What my magazine didn't go on to say is that the first letters of gift, ordering and dedication spells God. That may be a rather weak preaching device.